Welcome to the Overcome Adversity podcast. I'm your host, Michael Allison. Today's guest is David Kitchen. He's the founder and CEO of Edge Leadership. This man here goes by Coach Kitch, but he's been through his own fair share of adversity in his life, and I can't wait to hear his story and especially talk about leadership. Let's go. Hey, Coach, welcome to the Overcome Adversity podcast, brother. Thank you for being here, man.
What's going on, big dog, man? I'm excited to do this. I mean, obviously, anybody that builds a platform like you've built, for me to get on here and be able to chop it up with you and share some value for your listeners, man, it's a good day to be here.
Absolutely, man. So I've been looking forward to this conversation because you do some of the things that I really love to talk to people about, which is obviously overcoming the adversity. But you've taken it to another level, man. And when it comes to like leadership, for me, that really hits home for me, for someone that served in the military and knowing how pivotal that is. If you can, man, tell us a little bit about like your backstory and how do you even get to the position that you're in now to being the founder and CEO of your company, man.
Yeah, man. So I'll give you kind of the Reader's Digest version, and then we can dive into any piece of it that you want.
Let's do it.
I was given the best gift that anybody can be given on this planet, which is I was born to a single mother and watched her grind and battle, man. And I say it was a gift because to me it is, right. Like I don't really believe that things happen to you. I think they happen for you.
Uh-huh.
And so, being born to a single parent, well, it happened for me, and I got the opportunity to watch what hard work looked like, what grit work looked like from a young age. Never met my biological father. Stepfather struggled with some addiction. There were some issues in the home, and we can dive into that, that backstory of it as well. So that's definitely part of who I am. From there, got the opportunity to play high school ball at a program that was traditionally one of the top 25 in the country, still on, many, many lists around the country. And so had the opportunity to go there and see what culture and leadership work look like at a young age, right? And that gave me the opportunity to go to college. So football gave me my foot in the door at a small university, gave me the opportunity to play ball at the college level. And my immaturity cost me that opportunity, right? So my immaturity kept me from getting on the field. I was medically DQ'd after my sophomore year going into my junior year. So ended up not playing my last 2 years of college football. And then from there, everybody told me, you got to let go, man. You got to let go of athletics. You got to grow up. It's time to figure out what you want to do with your life. And so I took an internship that led me to Europe, and I lived in Europe for 6 months, came back. It was like, yo, I'm taking over the world in business, man. So I'm catching me on the cover of Forbes, right? And so I got into business, and I sold IT systems right out of college for about a year. Sold cloud solutions and IT systems to small and medium businesses in PA. And I hated it. I was so miserable, man. So miserable. I was making money, but I was just miserable. I was like, this is so boring. And so I was coaching high school football on the side, and I just fell in love with the idea of teaching the game and teaching strength and conditioning in particular, the weight room and the lessons that it teaches. And so I started to like look up and research, like, can I be like just a coach that teaches like lifting? Like, is that a thing? I didn't even know if it was a thing. Right. And what I found out was there's this thing called strength and conditioning. And I'm like, bet. All right, that's what I'm going to do. Then I found out that you need a certification and a master's degree, and you're supposed to have a degree in exercise science and all this stuff. And I had none of that, right? And I had already graduated college. So I'm like, all right, how do I do this? So I sat down and I wrote letters to every school, every Division I school on the East Coast. And I said, I'll quit my job and come work for you for free if you teach me how to do this. Like if you mentor me and get me ready to take the test and like do this stuff, like I'll come work for you for free right now. Little did I know they actually have internship programs. So really I didn't have to write the letters. All I had to do was like actually go to school for exercise science, but I didn't. So I took the long way around. And, so I moved to Pittsburgh. I packed up my Jeep, quit my job, moved to Pittsburgh, and it launched me on a 10-year career in college strength and conditioning, man. That was absolutely phenomenal. Took me to the highest levels of Division One. It allowed me to be the youngest head strength coach in the country. At 24 years old, literally a year and a half after I started, I became a head strength coach. Um, I had the opportunity to coach both major Division One men's basketball and Division One football. So I'm one of the few people that have done both. And I've met unbelievable people along the journey, man. I saw leadership, I saw culture, I saw so much, and it was such an invaluable time in my life and experience in my life. It was a great 10 years that I wouldn't trade for anything. And when the pandemic hit, like a lot of other people, I did some soul searching, and it was time for a change, man. And you realize very quickly at that level, the Division One level, that it's a business, and so I was tired of my life being in the hands of somebody else, right? I was ready to build my own story, and so that's where Edge Leadership Academy came from. I took all the lessons I had learned, throughout my career, and seeing leadership and culture, and I built a curriculum and launched a company. And 3 years later, we have three divisions and over 100 clients, and we're working across the country. So it's been a wild ride, man. Again, I know that was a long-winded Cliff Notes version, but I don't know what to skip, because it's been such a twist and turn, and there's so many pivotal steps in it. So I want to make sure I give you that context.
Man, your story is one truly of resilience, but I also heard in between there, man, someone that betted on himself, and also someone that I would say, when we're speaking to like the audience and things like that, like fear, if it didn't sound like it entered your mind. But what I will say was someone that was truly put in the space of like, I'm going to make all of these sacrifices because I knew of the better gain towards the end and stuff like that, man. So I want to salute you for just even doing that. If I'm right, tell me I'm right. But it sounds like your story was one of like who faced all of these obstacles, man. But you decided to like bet on yourself, man, through all of these challenges, these fears. You didn't quit, you didn't give up. And what I love is someone that said, let me navigate this a little bit different way, be adaptable, be flexible, and all these different things, man.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. When you talk about the adversity and you talk about the some of the fear things, like there's a piece of me that understands that I'm playing with house money, right? So what I mean by that is, like, statistically speaking, I shouldn't be here, right?
Mhm.
And so and you understand this as an African American man as well. Like, we're not supposed to be successful according to the statistics, right? Especially if you come from a single parent household. And so the more success I kind of saw, and again, success in air quotes, because I never feel like a finished product, right? But the more success that I saw, the more I was kind of like, all right, like, how far can I push this, right? Like a blackjack streak. Like, you start to feel like, no, I'm playing with house money now. And the more you do it, the more confident you get, right? But no, there definitely was adversity, man. There was challenges. Like, we joke about it that most people become a man at 18, and like I was a man at 10 years old. I was the man of the house at 10 years old. Um, and there were some things that I saw, and some struggles that we went through that absolutely shaped me, but they also gave me gifts, right? Like, my ability to read a room and my emotional intelligence level for a child was very high, because it had to be, because of what was going on in the household, right? Like, I had to figure that out. Resourcefulness, my ability to, like you said, bet on yourself. Like, all of those things come as a result of the storms that we go through in life, but so quick, we close the door on that chapter. We never want to open it back up and learn the lessons from it. And to me, that's where the power is when you open the door back up and you look back and you say, oh, look at all the things I learned from this chapter in my life.
I want to ask you this, and let's unpack that a little bit, because you said something that was so profound that I think readers or listeners of your story should really understand. You know, you said you was the man of the house at 10 years old, right? And a 10-year-old is either on the streets playing football, basketball, they're playing hide to go seek, whatever, all those things. But you just put yourself at a different caliber, to a different level. And if you could talk about, man, what was it like for you growing up in a single parent home and now having the role of responsibility, accountability, and thinking of more than just yourself, of like somebody else too as well, to be accountable for that too as well, man. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and what were some of the things that you were facing or dealing with on a day to day basis, whether it was in school, whether it was in friends, whether maybe in sports too as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a younger brother, right? So my brother's 5 years younger than me, different father. And so I always felt like I was responsible for him. I always felt like I was responsible to be the role model for him, and to show up the way that he needed me to show up in everything, in every area of my life, right? And so um, I was a little bit of an angry kid. I did get in some trouble at a young age. I actually got kicked out of private school. I was in a Catholic school. Got the boot in second grade. That was the end of that game. So went back to public school. But no, I mean, again, from a household standpoint, like my mother worked. She worked at a diner and she worked at a bar, and we lived in an apartment above the bar. Um, and then my stepdad was a long haul truck driver, who struggled with addiction. And so he'd be gone for like weeks at a time. And then he'd come home and kind of upset whatever balance we had built while he was gone, kind of got thrown out the window because of some of his, addiction struggles and things like that. Um, and I use struggle because I try and be empathetic about it now. I definitely wasn't back then and wasn't for a long time of my life. I was very angry about it, but um, so watch that, from I guess age 5 to age 10, age 11, right? So 6 years of my life, I watched that go on. And for me, life was about finding escapes. Life was about where can I go and be a kid because I can't be a kid when I'm at home, right? And so that meant, every time I was out in the streets, man, I was raising hell. I was riding my bike as fast as I could, jumping off of stuff, getting in fights, getting in trouble. Like I was being a kid in every arena except at home, right? And it's interesting because during that time, my grandmother would come and get us every weekend, right? Because during the weekend, the bar downstairs would have bands and it would get really loud, and it just wasn't a safe environment for kids to be in. So my
Right.
grandmother would come get us for the weekend, and like that's when I became a kid. Like that's when I got to go be a kid because I was in a safe and structured environment, right? And so it was so interesting because I'd come back then, and it would take me like a day or two to like feel normal again. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just it was an interesting upbringing, man. It was a really interesting upbringing, and I do want to make sure I say, my life was not an A&E late night special, right? Like my mom did a great job. My mom busted her butt to make sure we never missed a meal. Even if that meal was, bread sandwiches, like it is what it is. But we always had something. We always had something. Um, and she made sure of that. You know what I'm saying? So I always like to make sure that that's put out there. That Mama Dukes, man, she held it down.
Shout out to moms, man.
That's it. That's it, bro. Especially raising a kid like me, man, because I was hella on wheels, boy.
Man, I want to hop into something that you talked about earlier. And for yourself, you had to transition and pivot through different career challenges, choices, whether it was coaching, whether it's the navigating to potentially could have been an intern and all those different types of things, man. Can you talk to our listeners, right? What was that, those pivotal moments? And then I want you to like really like intrinsically talk about like the decision making and like betting on yourself and trusting like if I make this decision, this could be the outcome or this might not be. Because a lot of people I think are scared of failure, so they stick to where they're at. They stick in their complacent zone. They stick to where they're, where I'm comfortable, So if you could talk a little bit about like stepping out of your comfort zone and
Yeah.
betting on yourself and trusting yourself through that transition, man.
Yeah, there were a few really big moments throughout my career, that really led me to where I am, right? So the first one obviously being the decision to get into coaching. And so I'll talk you through that one. So I was making money, man, and as a kid that grew up without it, I thought that's what would make me happy, right? Like we all do. Like you grow up and you try and find what you didn't have, right? So for me, I didn't have money, so I'm like, oh, if I get a job, you're telling me that if the more I sell, the more money I make. Say less. Say less. I'll work harder than everybody else. Like, what do you mean? That's no problem for me, right? And so I'm making money, and what I'm realizing is like, oh, I'm still not happy. Like,
Mm.
what's the deal? Like, why am I not happy? And so that was something for me that really got driven home, right? So I remember being at a Christmas party, and I'm looking at everybody around the room, And it's all these, again, great time to be in cloud sales, man. It's 2013, 2014, like it was just booming. And so I'm looking at the people around the room and like they're wearing their nice watches and smoking their cigars and they're having a blast, right? And I'm like, I don't want to be that when I get older. Like that's not who I want to be, right? And so I remember going outside and it's cold as hell. It's December in Pennsylvania, so it's cold, and I'm out there and I'm just like, dude, I got to do something different. I got to get out of here. I got to do something different. And so that was the moment where I was like, I don't know what's on the other side of this. Like, I don't know what's going to happen once I write these letters and somebody gives me an opportunity and I have to move. Like, I have no idea what that's going to look like. But what I do know is if I stay here, I'm going to be miserable. I know that. And that's not good for anybody, right? And so the other thing I thought to myself was like, if I'm going to go work for free, I've been broke before, so I'm not afraid to be broke. And so I'm willing to go through that struggle, right? Because like you said, I'm betting that what's on the other side of this is going to be better than what I'm doing right now. And so that was the mindset going through. It was always that I know what the reality is if I stay here. I know what that outcome is, and I don't want that. And so if I want to change the output, you have to change the input, right? And the input was I was doing a job that was sucking energy out of me instead of putting energy into me, right? And so that was the first big moment of like stepping out and like betting on yourself. And I'd be lying if there wasn't fear. There absolutely was, man. Absolutely was, right? But it was huge for me to be able to start to connect the dots between my childhood and who I was becoming as a man, right? Which meant as a child, if it scared me, I ran face first into it, right? So,
Mhm.
like, if a big hill in town scared me, I'm riding my bike down it as fast as I can with no brakes, right? And then I started to adopt that mindset as well in life. Like, if something scares me, like, I got to run towards it. I got to see what it's about, right? Because it's the only way to get past the fear. And, so that was one big moment for me. The second big one came when I left a Division 1 job to go to a Division 2 job. And for people that aren't familiar with college sports, it's D1, D2, D3, right? So obviously D1 being the big one, and then D2 middle, D3 is kind of considered the lower tier. So I left a D1 job to go to a D2 job, and everybody thought I was crazy. And they're like, bro, you're out of your mind. Like, you're never going to get back to Division 1. There's people that work their whole lives to get to D1, and you're walking away, yada, yada, yada. I did it, and it set me up to become the head strength coach, the youngest head strength coach in the country, right? But it was an opportunity that I saw that nobody else did, as far as like I saw what it could turn into. And I was like, no, if I go and I put the work in, this could springboard me into what I want, and it did. It did. Next thing I knew, I was the youngest assistant director in all of Division 1 football. Right, so I left as a barely unpaid intern from the Division 1 world. I came back 2.5 years later as the youngest number 2 on any staff in the country. Right, and so it's like it worked out, but again, it took that feeling of like I have to run my race. It's my process. I can't look left. I can't look right because if I do, I get distracted and I start to get envious or you start to get fearful. Like, no, it's my process. So, what is best for me? Right. And then just go through that. So, like, those two moments were huge for me as far as like navigating um, that feeling. Right. And you just got to get to a point where you trust your process to a point where other people's opinions no longer matter. Like that's what it is. It says nothing about how I feel about the other people. I just care about my process so much that your opinion becomes irrelevant,
Mhm.
right? So I mean those are some moments that for me were just pivotal, and they set me up to have the confidence to continue to do it my way because I saw the results, right? Like it says, and I'm not hugely, religious, so we'll call this spiritual, but like it says in the Bible, right? Like you can tell a tree by the fruit that it bears, right? Well,
Yeah.
I saw the fruit. I saw like good things were happening. Like, oh, you bet on you and you put the work in, good things happen. So let's double down on that.
I love the fact that you found your superpower within that, man. I'm not sure if you caught that yourself, but from hearing your story and seeing that and knowing what you've done, like this is tied to like your strength of what like the gift that God has given you to me, man. I want to hop into something, and I think it's key for people in these days, in these times, that is struggling with clarity. They're struggling for a blueprint. They're struggling for a map of where they're trying to get to in life. They're struggling with the decisions they need to make, the direction they need to go in their life, and the destination where they need to be at. For you, man, you did all those things that we just talked about, right? And I want to ask if you could talk a little bit about, like, now you've identified what's your purpose, what's your mission, and you decide to put all that energy into yourself, into your company, and now you're pouring back into people. Can you speak a little bit about that journey and how you've been able to impact so many people and the benefits of that from you discovering that?
Yeah, it all, you know what it all started with? Honestly, it was a conversation. I'll never forget it. It was a conversation on the Las Vegas Boulevard. So I was at UNLV. I was coaching at UNLV, which prayers up to them right now. They just had an active shooter on campus yesterday. So prayers out
Wow.
to my Rebel family. But you know, had I was at UNLV and one of my best friends was out visiting me. He was a college coach as well. And I had missed, you know, multiple of our friends' weddings. I had been just MIA because I was just working so hard. I was working, you know, every day, all day. And so my friend comes out to visit, and we're standing on the boulevard, and we were up on the second level of this club overlooking the strip, and then we're talking. And he said to me, "You know, man, what are you going to do if it's not enough?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, this dream that you're chasing, right? Like, you want to win a national championship, you want to be the youngest coach to do it. Like, you have all these dreams and you're hustling so hard to go after it. Like, what are you going to do if it's not enough? Like, what if that's not what you were put on this earth to do? And that like shook me to my core because I had never thought about that. I was so obsessed with getting there that I never thought about what happened after the confetti fell. Like, that
Mhm.
never even. I was so focused on just getting to the confetti. Like, I was like, bro, I don't even know. You know what I mean? And so that seed was planted in my head. And over the next couple of years, I started to realize that my vision in my life was bigger than just sports. And my vision in my life of what I wanted for myself was much bigger than athletics. And so, you know, I had the opportunity to coach and continue to coach at a high level for a long time, but I, in the back of my mind, I kind of knew, right? So as I stepped out and created the business, um, in that same spirit, right? I kind of reworked the way that I thought about things. So one of the exercises that I did prior to starting the business, so this would have been like 2019, 2018. I sat down and I got crystal clear about who I wanted to be in life and what I wanted, right? So I wrote down my vision, my mission, and my values, right? So my vision being, what do I want when it's all said and done? What does my mountain, what does my peak look like? Right? When I'm up there and I think about it as the funeral question, right? Like, what do we leave behind? Like, what is our legacy? And so for me, that was exactly it. I wanted to leave a legacy for my family to be proud of. And so I got crystal clear on that. And then it was like, okay, I know where I'm going. How am I going to get there? Well, that becomes your mission, right? What can I do every single day that if I do this and stack enough days, I'm guaranteed to achieve that vision? Well, for me, it's inspiring greatness in as many people as I possibly can. Right. So, how do I bring the best version out of every single person that I meet? Whether it's the cashier at 7-Eleven, me and you having this conversation, whatever. Like, how do I impact people as much as I possibly can? And so I'm like, okay, now I know what I need to do on a daily basis. Well, I also know if I'm chasing a legacy, there's going to be setbacks, there's going to be adversity, there's going to be people telling me I can't do it, there's going to be self doubt, there's going to be storms. I mean, all these things right on the mountainside when you're trying to get up there. So I need things that are going to protect me. And so those become my values, right? Like, what are the things that if somebody came to me and said, hey, you're no longer a coach, you're no longer this, you're no longer that, you get halfway up the mountain and they throw you back to the bottom, what are the things that you would use to rebuild your life? And then how do you build off of those and create? Because that's how you create a path up the mountain, right? And so for me, it was honesty, genuinely caring about people, like genuinely wanting people to win, and then being driven because that's on me. That's 100% in my control, right? And then being committed to growth, looking for opportunities to get better in as many areas as I possibly can. So I had my vision, I had my mission, I had my set of values. And what I started to do, and what people out there right now can do, is I use that criteria for everything that comes across my plate on a daily basis. from what time I get up in the morning to what time I go to bed to who I spend my time with, what TV shows I watch, what I have on my social media. Does it bring me closer to my vision? Does it allow me to fulfill my mission? Does it represent the values that I believe in that are non negotiable in my life? If it's not three yeses, I just don't do it, period. And so I don't overthink. Like people say, you're an overthinker. I'm not. I make decisions like that because I just go one, two, three, yes, yes, or no. Right. And if it's not three yeses, I'm probably not doing it. Right. And so, those are some of the things that were going through my head. And that's what's clarified my purpose. And that's what's allowed me to be so calculated in what I do. Because all that's left to do now is execute. Right. I know what the vision is. I'm clear on that. Right. I'm clear on that. That's every single day. So now all that's left to do is just execute on it and be relentless in that. And I have no distractions because I don't have to think about anything else.
David, man, you just hit the bullseye for me, man, knowing exactly what your target is. I also want to say something that was very profound, and I hope that the listeners took that away. When you've identified what is like your purpose, your mission, your values, your standards, and all of these things, it streamlines so many things in your life and remove clutter, remove cloud, it removes confusion. And I say that as like, so kind of like yourself. I had a mentor that was working with me, and we sat down on one of our first sessions, and I was telling him all of these things I got going on in my life and what I'm trying to do. And one of the key takeaways from the session that I had with him, it was like, Michael, you need to learn how to say no. And once I figured that out, life got so much easier and so much simpler, man. So I just want to co-sign what you just said because you're
Yeah.
so
Oh yeah.
right.
Dude, it makes things so simple. Like when I explain the process to people, they're like, "That sounds tiring." Like the fact that I have to sit and like write all this stuff, and I'm like, "Listen, it doesn't have to be, but sure, if you want to feel like it's tiring." But here's the thing: the energy that I put into writing that vision, mission, value statement has saved me so much time over the years, like, and so much energy and so much because it dictates everything, right? People that have, if you have relationships in your life that you don't think serve you anymore, run them through that test. Does it align with my vision? Does it align with my vision? Does it represent my values? No. Guess what? I'm not having dinner with that person anymore. Like it's very simple, right? Everything becomes very, very simple when you have that clear thing. Because like if you look at horses, right? When they run
Mhm.
their race, they got the blinders on, right? They don't look
Yeah,
left, they don't look right. Like once you clarify your vision, your mission, and your values and where you're going, I don't have to look left or right because it doesn't matter what's going on over there because I know where I'm going and I'm going this way. Right now, I want to bring as many people with me as I can. But if you don't align with those vision, those mission, and those values, you can't join the tribe. Sorry, like it's that simple because we're going that way.
absolutely. If you can, man, now let's talk a little bit about like your company and your business. Can you tell us the type of people that you guys serve, the type of people that you guys work with, and then a little bit about, if you can, about some reviews, some testimonials, and some success stories of people that has worked with you and your company, man.
Yeah, definitely. So we have three arms to the company. We have three divisions basically. So we have our athletics arm, which is what's where the company started, which is leadership development workshops, culture development workshops. We also do like coach to coaches. So we'll teach because there's a difference between a coach and a leader, right?
Right,
And just like there's a difference between a boss and a leader. And so
right,
we have coach to coaches programs where we teach you leadership skills and leadership development and how to develop that within your team, right? How to develop that within your staff and within your program. Um, then we have our corporate side, which is the majority of our business now,
Mhm.
which is leadership workshops, leadership training, management training. We do culture rebrands. We've kind of found a little bit of a niche in like the M&A space or like mergers and acquisitions when they're kind of bridging that corporate culture. We do a lot of work with those types of companies that are going through that transition. And then we also do a lot of mentorship. So whether it's somebody that you've identified within your company that you want to move up that needs leadership skills and leadership mentorship and training, we do that. We also do a lot of C-suite coaching, right? So I have a lot of clients that are entrepreneurs, CEOs, et cetera, that I coach as well. And then we have our one-on-one side in the middle, which is, our one-on-one. I do leadership coaching, I do executive coaching, and I do mindset and like high performance coaching, right? So I do all three of those. We have a sales coaching program as well that my business partner runs, and then we have like our group cohorts that we do. So we do guided mentorship programs. We do 3 of them a year. We call them the table because everybody wants a seat at it and everybody wants to bring something to it. So we have the table as well. So yeah, so those are the different types of people that we work with. And I know, in today's world, everybody says like the riches are in the niches, right? And you got to niche down. And I help busy housewives lose 10 pounds. Like that's what people do now. Like for me, I'm like, listen, I help people get in the arena of life. Like if you want to be the best version of you, you want to build, you want to lead, you want to build, and you want to perform, I'm your guy. That's what we do. We do high performance, we do culture, and we simplify it into systems and frameworks. Like that's what we do. And so it kind of goes against the, riches are in the niches thing because we work with everybody from, like I said, athletics teams to next week. I'm going to speak to a construction company. I'm speaking at a men's mental health facility. Like I'll go. Well, listen, if you're interested in being great, I will come and I will come speak and I will pour my heart out and give you every tool that I have.
I love that, man. I actually agree with you on that because it actually speaks to what you said earlier. It's like when you once you find your divine path, you don't really worry about what anybody else says on the outside, man. So if it's go help this construction company, if it's to go help this men's group or whatever it may be, it is what it is. You know what I mean? So you don't really worry about what anybody else may say, may think, and all that stuff, man.
No, no, and like you said, like customer success stories and testimonials and those things. Like the number one thing that I'm proud of as a business. There's a couple statistics that I'm really proud of, and the first one is the fact that we have zero one-off clients. We've never had a client that we've worked with one time, never, right? And so to me, that speaks for itself, right? That means they're bringing us back every single time. We have clients that now book us for 8 or 10 events in advance, right? Where
Hmm.
I'm signing a contract to do 10 events at their business.
Hmm.
And so to me, that's something that I'm really proud of because we call it the Edge family. Like when people come in, they don't leave. They know they see the value that we bring. They know that we care, and they can feel the passion. Like I'm the same dude every day, all day. Like this is just who I am. This is the level of energy that I give people, and so people feel that, right? And so our whole thing is the fact that we've built this community of people that want to lead and grow and be the best versions of themselves. And so that's our one of our proudest statistics is that we don't do one-off clients. Like people bring us back time and time again. The other thing that I'm really proud of is our ad spend is $0. We don't spend on marketing. We don't advertise. Like it's word of mouth. It's we built this thing from genuinely showing up and just adding value to our clients and being who we are and being authentic in the way that we do it. And so that's what's allowed us to build what we've built.
Man, I love it, bro. I love the fact that you're so genuine and probably confident about it. Humble confidence. I would kind of like tag to that. Like you know your stuff and you know what you guys are doing. If we can talk a little bit about being successful, right? Sometimes it does come with a bit of adversity, like running a business, taking care of business, and things like that. From reading your story and understanding your bio, from preparing for this podcast, I know that you're one that has been through some setbacks in your personal life, been through some setbacks in your business, and things like that. If you could elaborate on some of the experiences that you did have while creating this business, building this business, and then how did you deal with it and how did you manage it? I know we have entrepreneur listeners that listen to this show, and some people think that business is going to be perfect. They think life is going to be perfect. And you're a testament of that, of overcoming that within your business and in your life. So you can talk a little bit about that, man.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. It's so when I started the business, I we kind of took off really fast, right? And things started to grow. Um, and I got arrogant and I felt like I could do everything, right? And so I started to take on all these new projects. And so I actually opened a gym that was 22,000 square feet, which is massive. I'd never run a gym before. I coached in college, but I never ran a private facility. I didn't know what I was doing. So I opened this gym and I had a business partner who was supposed to be there with me along the way. He ended up having to step away. He had 3 other facilities that he owned, so it just turned into this thing, right? So I had, a long story short, I had all these projects going on. I was writing books. I was saying yes to everything. I thought I was the king of the entrepreneurs. Like I thought I was like Alex Hormozy plus Grant Cardone plus the Wolf of Wall Street. Like I thought I had this thing figured out, dude. I'm like, this making money thing is easy. Watch this, right? And so I'm saying yes to everything. And I was on a road trip with my girlfriend at the time, and I was driving down to Georgia, and it was quiet. She was sleeping, and I don't know what happened, man. I just started having panic attacks, and I'd never had one in my life. I was one of the most extroverted people you'll ever meet. Like I never had anxiety before. Like I didn't know what it was, and so I started having panic attacks, and I'm like, what is going on, right? And so the next 2 days later, we were driving back, and same thing starts happening, panic attacks. So I'm driving this U-Haul, man, and I'm literally like falling out of the U-Haul. Like I'm pulling over to the rest stops, and I'm like crumbling out of the U-Haul, like I like can't breathe, like don't know what's going on with me, like I feel like I'm gonna die, and I'm like, what is this? So a couple months later, after me battling with it on my own because I thought I could, I finally get a diagnosis, right? And they're like, dude, you're having panic attacks, and I'm like, no, that's not going to happen to me. I don't have mental health issues. You kidding me? I have a degree. I have a master's degree in sports psychology. How dare you diagnose me with a mental health issue, right? And they're like, well, that's what's going on. You basically ignored your body for so long that it's now telling you, hey, pay attention, right? And so I was burnt out, man. That's what was going on. It was just burnout, and so what happened was it led me into this depression that I ended up getting diagnosed with depression as well. And next thing I know, I'm, go from being somebody that gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and goes hard until, 6, 7 o'clock at night to now somebody that can't get out of bed until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm not working out anymore. I'm not training anymore. I'm not doing anything. Right. And it was so scary, man. And so I had to give up some control. I had to go get a therapist and sit down and talk. I took my medication, did the things that I needed to do on that end. And so it's life. Like you realize, like, dude, everybody has their challenges. Everybody has their problems, right? It's how you navigate it um, to become the best version of you, right? Like, how do you give up that control? And so part of it for me was finally dealing with the things from my past, right? The things from my childhood, the things that I saw, like unpacking that box. Because for so long, what I did is I put it in this box and I kept it deep down. And I said, watch this. I'm going to fill this internal wound with all this external success. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fill this thing and nobody's ever going to know about it, right? And it doesn't work that way. And so what I've realized is like the more work that I do on me and the more work I do on my character and my mental health and taking care of me, the better I am in every other arena of my life. My relationships get better, my business gets better. Like that's what it comes down to, man. So, it's difficult to admit and it's difficult for people to deal with. And listen, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But we need to be proactive as entrepreneurs in taking care of ourselves. Because I'm telling you guys right now, if your body's check engine light is on and you aren't paying attention to it, at some point that thing's going to hit you over the head with a 2x4 and it's going to make you pay attention, right? And so we have to do a great job of being proactive. And those are, and now I have systems and things that I do in my own life that allow me to make sure I see that check engine light when it comes on and address it instead of ignoring it.
Man, David, uh, thank you for sharing that, bro. Because my story is one kind of just like the story, not the story that you just shared, but like of one who compartmentalized things and kind of, you said, put things in a box. For me, I use the term bottling things, like, and I
Mhm.
had to like break the bottle full of the things that I bottled in, and I learned that at a very young age how to compartmentalize things and put it away. But eventually, as you mentioned, it catches up with you. And when it catches up with you, it could affect you in so many different ways that you don't even see it coming, man. And it could affect you, obviously, primarily, but it affects so many other external factors, such as your loved ones, such as your business, such as your clients, you name it. And that's something that we do not want. And I love the fact that, you built in systems and processes to catch that. I like how you use check the engine light.
Yeah, you have to, man. Like I have things now in my life. So like for instance, I call it my launch sequence, right? So that's my morning routine. Like because I talk about it, and I say, listen, when you watch NASA or SpaceX or the Space Force or whatever it is now, whatever the name is now, when they send something into space, they don't just open a box and hit the red button, right? And the
Right.
thing takes off. Like there's a launch sequence. It's like this system on, this system on, this system on, right? But what do we do when we wake up in the morning? We grab our cell phones and we throw ourselves into the day, and it's like, why? Why don't we turn all our systems on instead? Why are we checking in with the world before we check in with ourselves? Like that makes no sense to me. And so, I now have time in my morning that my team can see my calendar and they know that certain things are non-negotiable for me, right? And I know that there's people out there that are saying, well, you're a successful entrepreneur and this that. Listen, I'm not a millionaire. I'm not rich enough to be able to say, hey, I need this time to go to the spa every day. Like, no, I'm doing this real life while I'm still busy as heck and still grinding and trying to make it, right? And so the excuses of I can't do it or I don't, that it's just not true. And so every morning, I wake up, I get water in my body, I meditate for 10 minutes. That's it, 10 minutes. Just get clear, right? Then I read, I write something, and I connect with somebody that I care about, and then I move my body. I do whether it's a walk, whether it's a stretch, if I'm going to lift later in the day, or I lift in the morning, whatever it is. I do something to move my body, right? And those things, I've now done something for me. So now I can be selfless in showing up for other people. I can be selfish in the morning and then become selfless as soon as the clock starts and I have to show up for everybody else in my life. Because as entrepreneurs and as high performers and leaders, that's what we do. We show up for everybody else. We show up for our clients. We show up for our families. What are you doing for you? What are you doing to protect you? Like, what are you doing to make sure that you can be the best version of you? Because you owe it to those people and you owe it to yourself. And that's something that I didn't take seriously for a long time. And so now that's part of my routine, man. I call it my launch sequence. It's non-negotiable, right? My therapy sessions, I still go to therapy. My mindset coach, all those things are on my calendar and they're in green. Green means don't move it. It means that it's always there. So my team knows that those things are non-negotiable for me.
Man, I love that. When I think about like your process of how you jumpstart the day and prepare for the day, I think about some of the things that the military taught us when I was in regards to like there's a SOP for every single thing that we do. Where if I'm not in that space, the next man up could actually jump in that seat and do that same thing. I would say to our listeners too, as well, taken from what David just said. I'm pretty confident that he has this in his systems and his processes for his own personal life. But I think what's important also too is how you shut down and prepare for that night too as well to get ready for the next day. And I hope the listeners understand that there is a process and systems, right? When the flight lands or the NASA plane lands, they don't just shut it off and walk out, right? There's a process of
Facts.
how to properly shut this thing down, man.
Yeah, it's so important to start to learn how to do those things in your life. And even just having the awareness, right? Of like, I need to be aware of how I'm doing this because so much of it is autopilot now. Like you finish your workday and then you're on TikTok for 4 hours and then you kind of drag yourself to bed and you're like, man, why can't I fall asleep? We just stared at a blue light for the past 4 hours while you were eating sugary snacks, watching TV. Like, I wonder why. But but instead you can set up, discipline alarms, right? So like I call things like you look for things within your system that are what I call the keystone habits, basically. Like there's habits that you have that hold the whole system together, right? So like for instance, I'm a sneakerhead. Like I love shoes. I got cowboy boots, Jordans, I love shoes, and it's my one vice that I spend money on, and they all are in like they're categorized. They're in their specific slot. And so if I come home or I wake up in the morning and I see a pair of shoes sitting on my floor or sitting in my living room or whatever, I know that I was so tired the night before that I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even put my shoes back. So to me, that's, hey, check engine light is on. Something's not right here, dude. Like something's not right here. And so it's identifying what in your life is that discipline alarm. What is that little thing that it's like, oh, I gotta step back for a second, and I gotta make sure that my system is all running correctly because something's not right, right? And what do they do when you get a check engine light with your car? You take it to the garage, they hook it up to a computer, and they scan the whole system, and they figure out what's not right. We can do the same thing. It's an SOP, right? Exactly like you're saying. If I see a shoe, the SOP for me is to sit down and literally go through the last 24 hours of my day. Like, okay, what did I eat last night? What time did I get to bed? Who did I talk to yesterday? What meetings did I have? What deadlines are coming up? Because something ain't right. Have I worked out, as many times as I wanted to this week? All those things, like, you got to go through the system. You have to. I cannot stress this enough. The most successful people I've been around, whether they're entrepreneurs, world champion UFC fighters, Super Bowl champion athletes, they are successful because they have built systems that make it hard to fail. They reduce the likelihood of failure. That's what it comes down to. But you have to be willing to do that work to do it.
Absolutely, man. As we get ready to wrap up, man, I got a couple more questions for you. Can you tell us a little bit about leadership? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to live by it, go by it, breathe it, do it every single day to the point of where people could see it out of you? It's oozing out of you, and it's so like infectious because that's your company, that's what you do, that's your brand, right? Can you tell us a little bit about like what does leadership mean to you, man?
Yeah. Leadership to me is being somebody worth following that's going somewhere worth going, in a simple term, right? And it starts with five things. It starts with your character, which is a lot of what we talked about today, knowing yourself, your vision, your mission, your values. It starts with your consistency, right? And let me say this too. None of the other things that I'm about to say are matter at all if you don't get the character piece right. Right. So for anybody listening out there, focus on that first. But then from there, it's the ability to be consistent. It's being consistent in your actions, which is the systems that we're talking about, and also being consistent in your reaction, right? In your response to things. Can you emotionally regulate, right? Because people, on a base level, people function off of pattern recognition, right? Like we like patterns, we like consistency from people, and so we want to know: can I trust you? Can I follow you? Like, are you somebody that's going somewhere worth going? And so that's the consistency piece, your ability to be consistent in life and consistent with the people that are around you and what people can expect from you. Um, from there is commitment, right? And committing to what you say you're going to do. So, like for me, I'm committed to our vision. I'm committed to my vision as a human, right? And it's important to recognize too that my business's vision, mission, and values are not the same as my personal vision, mission, and values. However, my personal vision, mission, and values show up in the way that I commit to my company's vision, mission, and values, right? And so commitment is piece of that leadership, is a piece of that leadership puzzle. It's showing people that, hey, I'm committed on a daily basis to these things, and this is what you can expect from me, right? So, like our company's vision, I told you my vision was to leave a legacy for my family to be proud of. Our
Exactly.
vision as a company is to be the driving force behind people's success. Like we want to build a community where people can learn, grow, and execute to become the best versions of themselves in leadership and culture and in their environments. That's our company vision. So how I show up in that is dictated by my personal vision, right? But I have to be committed to both. So commitment is a piece of that. And then from there, like creativity, like how do you problem solve? Who are you when it all goes down? Like who are you when the bullets start flying and it's real, right? And it's live fire. Because the best leaders in the world are born in those figure it out moments. They're born in them and they thrive in them, right? And the only way that you can do that is if you know your personnel, right? KYP. If you're able to problem solve, if you're able to have perspective, if you're able to ask for help and ask for feedback and learn from the situation and be emotionally agile and also have that learning agility, right, where you can apply context from previous problems into this one, which should be supplied through your before and after action reviews, right, which is part of the consistency piece. And then lastly, it's your ability to communicate. Like, are you a DJ, right? And I say a DJ because are you giving people the message that you want to give them in a way that best resonates with them, right? Like, do you know people well enough to how are you going to communicate with them? And can you do the background work of knowing who they are, knowing how they're motivated, knowing your level of trust, understanding the setting, like all those things come into leadership. And so for me, I always want to lead from the front. And so I never want somebody to look at our company and say, "Oh, you talk about these things, but you don't walk it." Right? Like that, like you're not gonna catch me slipping on that. Like it's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Um, you know, that's so important to me. So important. And it's important to our whole team, man. It's important to everybody that works with us. You know, the other thing is everybody that works at our company goes through our curriculum. Like, have to. I don't care if you're the marketing person. We're going to figure out what your vision, mission, and values are in life. Like, we're going to talk about this stuff. Like, you know, and so yeah, that's how we try and again lead from the front. Like that's one of our core values on our company handbook. When people get it, and then I say company again, I'm not running a Walmart conglomerate here. Like I have a small team, but they get a manual. They get a manual. They get a handbook. They get SOPs, and the values that they get. It says lead from the front. First and foremost, lead from the front. It says lay a brick. Connection before content. Authenticity, character, and challenge the status quo. Those are our core values as a company, and we live them on a daily basis in action. You want to see them in action? Sit in on one of our meetings because they're in action on a daily basis.
Man, David, if I did not know this was civilian life, I would say that you served in the military or something like that.
No, no, no. But first off, I'm very thankful for all our brothers and sisters. My best friend is in the Air Force. Just got home from deployment, so shout out to him too. Welcome home, brother. So he just got back, but no, I have not served in the military, but I do. You guys, hey, you set the playbook, man. I just read it. That's it. You set the playbook. I just read it.
I had a friend of mine, and when I was getting into entrepreneurship, he was like, "Do not make this thing complicated. If you could take a look back at your experience, who runs one of the best oiled machine business in the world?" And he was like, "It's the U.S. military."
Every day
He
of
was,
the week.
they run. If people take the step back from the term military and all of that thing, or the Marine Corps, Air Force, Navy, it's one of the best oiled ran machines that you could ever see in this world. And he was like, if you ever want to set up a business and you want to look at a blueprint, look at that. And that's why I said that to you, because I could hear what you're doing, and it's just check, 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 check. Like you're doing all those things that we were talking about during that conversation, man.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool to watch too, and like I love getting around and picking the brains of military people. So like I'm a big time listener. I don't have the guts to step into the arena like you guys do, but I love to sit down and just listen and like I just want to hear, how I'm big on like SOPs. Like I love that stuff. I nerd out on systems and checklists and having that stuff before, like I said, before and after action reviews. Like we do those as a company, and so for me to sit down and listen to it from military minds, I'm like, yeah, give me more of that, because I'm learning how you guys are implementing things, because like you said, it's a well-oiled machine on every level.
I want to talk to you about something, man, before we get out of here, but I think it's important to bring it up. And you brought this up earlier when we first started this conversation. And I want to touch on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And for you to be successful in the space and the arena that you are, to leading the people, leading your team the way that you're doing it, and to be successful at it is truly, truly showing that it can be done. Truly showing that you can create a platform, you can create a foundation and build from there, and showing that you have a space or you have an arena to play in this game too as well. If you could talk a little bit about, man, what does diversity, equity, inclusion mean to you? What does it mean from a leadership standpoint? And what does it mean as in regards to like an impact that you want to make in this world, man?
Yeah, I think personally, first off, let's start there. Like personally, it means so much to me, to be an African American man teaching leadership in America. I think that that's so, to me, that's cool, right? But it also comes with a responsibility, right? And I think that I have a responsibility to continue to try and be the message that I'm trying to share, right? And so as a coach, right, wrong, or indifferent, man, there were times where you would hear, "Hey, he's a player's coach," right? Because I was a black guy, or we need you to go and deal with these kids because they're problem character guys, and it just happened to be four African Americans, right? And it's like, all right, hold on a minute. So for me to be able to be in a leadership role and teach these young men and young women, and now entrepreneurs and business owners and people that I work with, um, to stand there as an African American man and have that responsibility is never lost on me. Right? It's never lost on me. I think it's so important because I never saw somebody that looked like me in a leadership role growing up. I didn't have a black coach. I didn't have a black teacher. I mean, I didn't have my first black football coach until I got to college. And so, to me, again, it's just a huge responsibility that I have to be the one to help to push that message. Um, the other thing that I think is really important is, at the end of the day, I'm a character person, right? So from a business standpoint, like, I don't care where you come from. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what creed you are. What any of that stuff. If you do the job and you got character, you're in. I'm your guy. I'm your guy, right? Because to me, that stuff is just irrelevant, right? And so I think, without getting on too much of a soapbox about this stuff, I think we're heading in the right direction. I think we still got a long way to go, and I think that's evidenced, with some of the ugly reminders we've had over the past couple of years, just how far we do have to go. But I think people like you and myself have a responsibility to continue to show people that there is other options, there is opportunity. It is possible to get out there and do it, and then be that person. Like there's, again, this is, it's a touchy subject, so I'm trying to walk it the right way, make sure that everything that I say is intentional. Um, there are situations where sometimes people of color or people of minority groups maybe get in a situation and they don't pay it forward. And I think that that's really important too, that we have to remain authentic when we do get in these leadership roles, right? And that's what I mean by that. Let me make sure I'm clear on that. That's what I mean by that, is that we have to make sure we remain authentic. And so I think that's something that I've been really proud of from a DEI standpoint, is the fact that I do walk into the Caucasian baby boomers C-suite office in a pair of black and yellow Jordan 4s with my chain on, my earrings in, and my tattoos out. I do that, and that will never change, um, because that's part of who I am, right? And so, I don't know how much more how much more I can push it, because but I'm never going to stop being me, and I'm never going to stop hiring the best people and surrounding myself with the best people, regardless of who they are. Um, because at the end of the day, like they used to say in coaching, man, either recruit the best or get beat by the best. It's your choice, right?
Right.
And so for me, I'm recruiting the best, man, best character, best people. That's who I want on my team, and those are the types of clients that we want to work with as well.
Right. Thank you for saying that and sharing that, man. I saw, I used to work at Florida Atlantic University, where I used to be a director for military students, and during that time, that's when COVID hit, and that's when the George Floyd situation occurred. And it was at that precedent moment where it seemed like diversity, equity, inclusion like spiked,
Mhm.
and how it really spotlighted a situation that changed a lot of different things, when the impact of it, how it affected different people. And when I say different people, I mean like every color, you saw different colors marching and standing up and things like that. What I do love from that outcry, from that situation, as bad as that was, I do see that diversity, equity, inclusion has spiked to the point of where now there is inclusivity. There's now opportunities for people to be in the room as well too. I do love to see that different people are now given a chance and given an opportunity. Obviously, it could get better, but there's different steps in regards to like incorporating these different types of things. But for me, it's just a a good thing for me to see where there's now opportunities and now there's like programs and things like that. And I say that as a business owner when I look, and I had a meeting 3 weeks ago with somebody else, but now companies out there like big Fortune 500 companies that did not realize or did not even give this a thought are now creating opportunities for different ethnicities to do business with them too. So, and I
Mhm.
say that from this meeting that I had. Now, Home Depot has different programs for DEI. Now, you look at some of these different companies that's on some Forbes list have different programs for DEI where companies that was not even given a shot now have a chance to do business with some of these Fortune 500 companies and things like that. For our listeners, so if you're listening to this conversation, it is an important part to actually start. If you're an entrepreneur or someone that's looking to do business, there are actually opportunities now. If you wanted to get into the space and partner with some of these Fortune 500 companies, some of these well-established companies, there are these opportunities now from some of these unfortunate circumstances, but companies are now having an open minded to do business with different people, different groups, different ethnicities, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of your point of kind of some of the things that came out of the COVID time and some of the social justice movement that continues today, but that was definitely peaked during that time or spiked during that time. I shouldn't say peaked, but spiked during that time. It was encouraging to see how it did bring some of us together, right? Like that was encouraging to me. There were some encouraging things that came out of it, similar to what you said with some of the programs that are out there. And I think that to any minorities or any group that's out there that's listening to this, like we need you guys to continue to be the change. It's all of our responsibility, right? It's all of our responsibility. Whether you're black, white, purple, green, red, doesn't matter. Like it's all of our responsibility to continue to change this and continue to leave the world a better place than we found it. And a lot of that comes through giving people voices, giving people a seat at the table, and allowing people to share their gifts, right, and then their strengths with us, and giving them the resources to do so. So just to kind of piggyback off of what you said, like man, it's our job, right? We're the generation that has to change this. Like it's our job. It's on us. Nobody's coming to save us. We got to do it.
Absolutely. David, before we get out of here, man, what are some words of wisdom that people could take away from your story? You came up rough, humble beginnings, brother. You transitioned into the coaching space to now an entrepreneur, bro. Faced many different adversities. You talked a little bit about mental health. You talked about DEI and entrepreneurship. What are some wisdoms and takeaways, bro?
Yeah, man. I think the big thing that I always like to leave people with is that successful people are not special. Like it's not reserved for the blessed and the few. Like you can do this thing, man. I am a walking example. Our company mantra is built, not born. Like you can build this thing into what you want. It is all about surrounding yourself with the right people, and it doesn't have to be physically. Like in today's world, you can find the right mentors online in a second. Like do that stuff. And if you surround yourself with the right people and start to make the right decisions, and you do it day after day, right? We say lay a brick. If you wake up every day and you lay a brick in the right direction, you will be successful. You reduce the likelihood of failure. So that's the big takeaway that I always try to tell people is it's not they're not special. I've been around them. They're not. They're humans. They're just like me and you, and we can have it too. We just got to go get it, right? And then along the way, take monster swings. You get one shot at this life, man. Get up to the plate and swing out of your shoes. Like if you have a number in mind that you want to earn, add a zero. Like you got a company that you want to build. Say you want it to be a Fortune 500 company. Like take big swings. The more massive action you take, the more massive results you get, and the more massive opportunities get put in front of you. That's the thing, man. And then finally, just continue to live life in the arena. We weren't put on this planet to sit in the stands. It takes no talent, it takes no expertise, it takes no education to be a critic. It takes no guts to be a critic either. So live in the arena. Get down there, man. Get your hands dirty and just enjoy it. Enjoy it, man. It's a fun journey, and I appreciate everybody that took the time today to listen to this, and hopefully we added some value to your day and to your life, and I can't wait to see you guys at the mountaintop, man. I hope there's a big party up there celebrating.
David, this has been one of my most enjoyable conversations. Sincerely, I mean that from the bottom
Thank
of my
you.
heart, bro. Like this has been one of the best conversations that I've ever had with a guest, and I love what you're doing. I love the impact that you're making, man. How can people get a hold of you? How could they speak with you? How could they get and more information about your academy, about your that you're building right now, man? Or already got going
Yeah.
on it, so to speak.
Yeah. So our website is edgeleadershipacademy.com. That's on the, I think you have it down at the bottom. Yep, I see it there. So it's edgeleadershipacademy.com. I'm on all the socials as at Coach D Kitch. So LinkedIn, Facebook, all of them. Instagram is probably my most active. If you're looking to get directly to me, so I'm gonna give because I enjoyed this conversation too. I'm gonna give your people a little insider scoop here. If you're looking to get directly to me and get around my team, and they're gonna hate me for saying this. I run my own LinkedIn and my own Instagram. So those two platforms, that is me. So if you DM me on those two, you're getting me straight to me. If you want to go through the team, any of our other social work, or just connect with us on the website, and you can, they'll put you in touch with me at some point through the right channels. But if you want to cut the line and get straight to me, DM me on Instagram, DM me on LinkedIn, and I'll get back to you. We also have our Finish Friday newsletter, which is now available. That link is on the website. We have our next table groups, our next mentorship group will be opening this spring, so keep an eye out for that. And man, other than that, that's it. I mean, we're simple. If you're interested in working with us, find us online. Let's chop it up, and we'll see how we can add value to you.
David, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your wealth of knowledge. This has been a great interview with you, man. It's been a pleasure, brother.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Guys, if you like this episode, make sure you leave a comment. But most importantly, share it with a family, with a friend, with a loved one. I know that this information that was shared today could be of value to somebody else. Until next time, God bless.
Can't complain at all. Couple dollars in my pocket, no income and go. Been working on my body, getting healthier. Thank God for clarity.